And I never thought that. And actually, honestly, reading that stuff was just pissing me off. But the more I thought about it, like during the week, I was like, I think it's pretty fair. I think it's fair. The only thing I didn't really agree with when it all came down was that assistant coach for Wisconsin to just get nothing.
Yeah, that was the only thing that I was.
He
I was
come
very
into
curious.
that. All the other assistants, coaches, staff members that were on the floor at that time were all trying to do the same thing: get everybody split up and try to and just try to get everybody going their own direction and get it over with. And he come in, he pushed through two players, and then who knows what was said. I mean, you gotta. I have to imagine that something was said, or maybe Juwan was just reacting off of him pushing the two players. Like I said last week, and I still hold strong to it. Juwan he was the one in the worst. I mean, he acted like a complete fool. You can't do that. And so when the 5-game suspension, that the rest of the regular season come out, I can't argue it. I mean, he was, and like I think we were talking about it last night when we obviously not recording at the time, but I truly believe that his ego got the best of him. I think it was his ego. He was still, he had lost the game. The game was over. They were down by 15. There was less than a minute to go. Guard had already put his bench in. So basically, when the winning team clears their bench, it's game over.
It's a white flag.
It's not that you have to stop playing hard, but we're not going to full court press your bench.
No.
And just try to turn you over, because the game is over. So I think if you were to talk to Juwan now, I think he would say that his ego got the best of him a little bit. And then what happened after that didn't need to happen. If he wouldn't have been full court pressing the bench, none of this would have even happened at the end of the game. So it's unfortunate and it sucks, but
we got a comment from Mr. Pure Michigan Angler over on YouTube. Feel it probably should have been a longer suspension, and there's a lot of people that were right there with you. I think it was appropriate. I think it was the right length. I'm glad that they waited a little bit in order to deal out the suspension, so it wasn't an overreaction. It wasn't something they were playing off of the emotion of what just happened. They kind of let everything simmer down. But then again, they didn't wait too long. I feel that they to give the situation its due. You had to separate a little bit from it, let tempers cool down, and then come out with it.
And I'm not, and I don't totally disagree with that comment. The only thing where I think it would get kind of complicated is then you're getting into the off season now, to where if obviously you got the Big Ten tournament. So where does he have to sit out the whole Big Ten tournament, or if you're giving him a certain amount of games, and I think it gets complicated. And then this is a team that's still kind of on the bubble. There's a chance that they can make the March Madness, the big tournament. And so if they make it to that, it's just I think it's right. Sit out the rest of the regular season and then come back at tournament time and go from there. And who knows? I mean, they had a big game today with Illinois. I mean, I think if they would have won that game today, it would have been really, really hard for them to lose out on getting into the tournament. They fell short today. They battled back in a really close game. I mean, it was just kind of, it seemed like Michigan could never really, the entire game could cut it, inside of like 7. And every time they would get to that, Illinois would go like on a 5 or 6 point run and work it back up to a 12-point game. It was just frustrating. And then in the last 2 minutes, Michigan's able to cut it to 2. And again, Illinois goes on a little bit of a run to end it, and it just, the better team won. I mean, Illinois is the better team right now. They knock down shots, and Michigan just consistently cannot knock down shots. They haven't been able to do it all season, and I think that's why they're in the situation where they're at right now, where they have every single game the rest of the regular season is very, very important, and they got games here against their two biggest rivals in Michigan State and Ohio State. And they need to win both of them.
Michigan State coming off a big win today.
Yeah.
Michigan State coming off a huge win today. And but no, I think you're completely right. And while I choke on spit, for those of you on YouTube, I did happen to hit the end stream button. So just want to let you know we're back. We're back. But no, I think Juwan's ego and just frustration boiled over, I think, is basically, and he was caught up in the moment. So hopefully this is the last, and I have a very good feeling if something like this were to happen again, then I think by all means he should be let go.
And that's the with that comment there where he doesn't believe that the suspension is long enough. It's hard to argue that because this isn't the first. This is not the first offense. It was just last year, in the conference tournament game against Maryland, where these are the biggest games of the season. Like, this is your conference tournament, and then that leads into the big tournament. And Michigan, at the time, we're talking about them. They're going to be a number 1 seed last year. They were, favorites to win that conference tournament. And here he is spouting off in the first game of the tournament against Maryland with Mark Turgeon, and it was just like, man, you got to let that shit go. Put the ego aside. It's not the Fab Five anymore. No. And I think that Juwan gets caught up in that, as a coach now, where you can get away with acting a little bit like that as a player, but now you're the coach. You're the guy that's in charge. You're the guy that these kids are all looking at. You can't do that. You can't act like that. It's unacceptable.
And bottom line, it's a different game today than it was.
Sure, absolutely.
Back when they were the Fab Five, and by all means, we're not talking about Juwan not being fiery anymore. We're not talking about toning
that's what
things
we love.
down.
That's what we love about him. But there's a right way to do it. There's a right way to carry yourself, especially when you're the man in charge. You're the head coach.
Yeah, if you want to do that shit, do it in the locker room. Have the players, rally around you and have that be your motivation. But don't do it in public.
Yeah, and I've heard all week, this is going to do nothing but help Michigan in recruiting, and with the kids, it might. But when you're talking about with parents,
no, parents don't want it.
You're the guy that's going in these families' living rooms and talking to these parents and promising them that not only are you going to give these kids the best opportunity on a basketball floor, but you're going to give them one of the best opportunities at education. You're setting them up for the rest of their life. And when you act like that, after a game, after getting beat, that's not professional. It was for me as a Michigan fan, it was embarrassing.
I'm not even a Michigan fan, but I was like, holy shit, is this really happening?
Yeah, I mean, and I still like Juwan. I still believe that he is the best man for that job. But I lost a little bit of respect for him, and I think it's going to take some time to get that back.
Yeah, and you're not alone on that boat. I'm almost positive. I'm almost positive. 2Ks, let's talk about some March Madness. How about it, huh? How about it? Yeah, it's very odd when you watch a Warriors game and Steph misses a free throw. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but it's 58-46, just about halftime. So let's go over to, I am on CBSSports.com, and let's look at, college basketball rankings, and this was updated before play today. So none of the results from today obviously are influenced by this, but we've got Gonzaga sitting at number 1, Arizona 2, and I'm going off the top, or AP top 25, not the coaches poll. Gonzaga, Arizona, Auburn, Purdue, Kansas, Kentucky, Duke, Villanova, Texas Tech, and Baylor. And I'll be 100% honest. I've kept an eye on this. I really haven't done my really due diligence, keeping a close eye on this. But judging from just some of the research I've done here lately, 2Ks, it seems like everyone almost across the board is pretty much sold that Gonzaga and Arizona are the top 2 teams in the country. However, there's a lot of folks that say anyone in the top 10 would be able to win the whole thing. And some say even go a little bit further past that top 10. And half of me is actually kind of thrilled that UCLA has made their way down, because if they were sitting where they were just a few weeks ago, the Conference of Champions, which we all know they haven't won anything in forever. That pretty much, there were folks saying that UCLA is all the way back. UCLA is, one of the best teams in the country, and like I said, they're sitting at number 12 right now, sitting at number 12. And another big storyline coming out of this is the ACC is down. Mm-hmm. We're used to seeing 10, 11, 12 teams from the ACC get in, and Bracketology right now is saying a max of 8, but probably more like 6 or 7. And we see Duke sitting at number 7, which I'll just throw it out there. They're going to make some noise in the tournament. Could possibly win the whole thing because it's Coach K's last year.
Coach K's last year, yeah. I've thought that too.
So if you are filling out multiple brackets, which I suggest, which by the way, 2K Crew, we will be doing the Turbo and 2K's bracket challenge once again, so keep an eye out for that. I know I've already got some folks asking about it. I actually have some money in my PayPal account already for a couple folks to enter. So here in the next, probably this week, I'll kind of get that thread started so that once the brackets do drop, I am able to get you over those, and I can take all your money. I can take all your money. If I'm not mistaken, I think last year Jeremy won it. I think that was the first time he's won anything that he's probably participated in everything I've done as far I know for a fact bracket wise. Even going pre-show days when I used to run a bracket just solo. He was there. I'm pretty sure he's done every single one of them. He's been in made a run at the fantasy football title this year. So kudos to you, my friend. But yeah, just kind of looking at this, let's say top 25 here, 2Ks.
Well, I think before we move out of like the top 4, those top teams that we're talking about, they all lost yesterday. Mm-hmm. You talk about Gonzaga, they lose. Arizona, they got their ass kicked. Mm-hmm. Auburn loses to Tennessee. Purdue loses to Michigan State. Like, the shakeup that's going to happen out of this, I don't know what's going to happen out of it. It just seems like there's not a team that will step up and just show everybody that they're the best team. They're the team to look out for. I don't see it yet. Duke, to me, right now, maybe possibly is that team. They looked really good yesterday against Syracuse. Kentucky's looked very good. Both of those teams are just loaded with NBA talent. I mean, maybe guys that haven't played together for very long, but they have they have so much talent there to where
they always do.
When you have young players like that, sometimes it just takes a little while before you really hit your stride. And I think both of those teams are getting to that point now in the season where they've played together now for 20 plus games. They're starting to catch that stride, and they're going to go with it. And those might be the teams that make their run here.
Yeah, there's been some analysts that are very, very high on Kentucky. There's some that aren't. Mm-hmm. There's some that are very, very high on Duke. There's some that aren't. And we're, sitting at number 4 is Purdue. We've seen Purdue be very, very good in the Big Ten, and we've seen Purdue lose some games that they probably shouldn't in the Big Ten. Does that surprise me? No, it's the fucking Big Ten. It's the Big Ten. Like we talked about, right jump out of the show. Home court in the Big Ten is probably more important than any other conference in the country. So, and maybe part of one of the reasons why I'm kind of lacking in this to get excited because usually even though the football playoffs are going on, I'm usually keeping an eye on things. But there really isn't that household name. Mm-hmm. That jumps off the page. There's no Zion, there's no Ja, there's any number, so maybe that's one of the reasons why it's taken me this long to kind of get excited for college basketball. But getting back to what we were talking about last week, once you start putting some cheddar in there, kind of raises your interest a little bit, kind of gets you a little bit more motivated to watch things, or at least pay attention. So, but regardless of any of the research that I've done, there's not a single analyst that people do this shit for a living. There's not, to get back to your point, there isn't that team or teams, Obviously, if there isn't a team, there isn't multiple teams that are just head and shoulders above everybody else. I mean, this is one of the most. I think there's going to be more parity in this tournament than ever before. Or not ever before, but more than normal. And I think too that when you do have a field like this, Selection Sunday is going to be key. Where they put these teams, who they bunch them with in within the four parts of the bracket. I don't so much think that the seeding is gonna matter as much. Of course, you always want the number one seed, so you have the easiest road to get there. I get that. But with there not being that team or teams that's head and shoulders above everybody, to me, the seeding really isn't going to be as important as where they put you, who's in your bracket. So that's what I'm keeping an eye on most before I even give any predictions or anything like that. But yeah, especially if you're a Gonzaga team, in order to be taken seriously, you have to win against your conference, and you have to win big.
You can't slip up and lose games in that conference, and that's been the knock with them all along. And I think that was a knock with even them last year. And I get it. That team they had last year was probably the best Gonzaga team I've ever seen.
Yeah, agreed.
And obviously they came up short. They didn't win at all, but they just mowed through teams in that tournament all the way up until they got to Baylor and that. But or the UCLA game before in the Final Four. But what I'm looking at right now with where this is at is there's only one team that in this last week or two that has been playing their best basketball that's in the top 10 right now, and that's Duke.
Yeah.
I think when the rankings come out, Duke's going to be the number one team. When you look at, they won this week. Gonzaga lost. They're number one right now. They lost. Arizona number 2, they lost. Auburn number 3, they lost. Purdue number 4, they lost. Kansas number 5, they lost. Kentucky number 6, they lost. All those teams lost.
Yeah.
Saturday. Duke wins. Duke win big. I mean, against a very poor Syracuse team, but they won big. And now they play Pitt, and then they end the season with North Carolina. They went out. I don't see any way that they're not the number one team.
No, it's hard to argue that. It's very hard to argue that, and I think that maybe this is another year like UConn when they had Kemba Walker. Just go on a fucking tear and rip off 12, 13 straight games in order to win the title. So we've definitely seen this before. It's not like it's a new movie we haven't seen the end. It's kind of the same movie. We're just waiting to see who the players are in the end. But like I said, where you're positioned, what part of the bracket you're in, and momentum. Momentum. Who does Mo play for? This team. So, this has all the makings of one player or one team, kind of like UCLA last year. They caught fire. They caught, probably one of the more improbable runs that we've seen in quite a while. And maybe this is the case this year, since there isn't that. We've. In years past, we've kind of argued, all right, well, this team should be the number one overall seed. And most of the time, it's like there's one or two teams like, yeah, I could see one or both of these having a very good shot. Well, hell, there's 6 or 7 teams this year that could get that number one overall spot. And I think we've got just a very little amount of regular season left, and then we've got the conference title game or the tournament. So that's always huge. That's always huge. There has to be a team out there that's just primed to make a run in said tournament, and possibly they need to win that tournament in order to get that automatic bid. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in there.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't shock me if a team like where is it? There's a lot of people really high on Murray State. Murray State. Right now they're sitting at 19. Granted, I'm not extremely familiar with their conference. They would probably have to, with being number 19, in my opinion, they really wouldn't need to win their conference tournament in order to get in.
Sure.
It's obvious they're one of the top 64 or 68 teams. But if if they catch fire and they walk, which they probably should walk through their conference tournament, get everything set up and momentum on their side, and go in it with a, you know, if they do that, end up being like in the top 12, then, you know, you're looking at a possible 3 seed, maybe a 4 seed. So that you'd be kind of primed to kind of make a run, because you would be in the top half of the bracket.
Yeah.
So keep an eye out for teams like that. Another team that I'm really, really high on is Houston. Just because, their coach is a fucking legend. And they've been playing great basketball lately. Been playing great basketball lately. And, you know, we've kind of picked at them, but UCLA has had injury problems all year, which is why they've been inconsistent. But when those guys have been together and been healthy, they've been the team that was there last year. Yeah. So fingers crossed they get healthy before the tournament, or healthier, so we get a kind of almost like a continuation of last year's team, because I want to say most of those guys are back, and especially the big-haired fro guy.
Yeah,
he's back. So it would be fun to kind of get the, you know, we're in. Even though I'm not a Duke fan, why not have Coach K get one last one right off into the sunset? The dude has, and I wrote an article or a blog on it. So if you guys do want to go and catch the blog, go to buyturbobeer.com. And I got to thinking, 2Ks, we haven't done, by we I mean me, we haven't done any new merch lately. So if you do go buy us a beer, you get on our mailing list. And you see this? I broke out the OG, the hashtag 2K Crew shirt. And for those of you that are on the mailing list, you will get first dibs at that. And it'll probably be another month before I actually get them out. But yeah, and you know, for not only will you be helping the show financially, but you'll get all the inside. You'll get all of my blogs once a week, and I'm even going to start sending out reminders to folks when we go live there. So, buyturbobeer.com, buy 2Ks and I a beer, and we will love you. But when I do my blog, it not only goes on the buyturbobeer.com site, but it does. I do write it for the Marcellus News here in town, and with that they try to keep me around, you know, between 500 and 600 characters, just because of the size allotted. Sure. So trying to recap Coach K's career in 500 to 600 words is almost impossible. But I kind of gave my 2 cents as to where this season, where this year is, how this team's constructed. Kind of some of his. I didn't realize that he started coaching Duke in like 1980.
Yeah,
he's been coaching Duke for as long as I've been alive. And one of the major things I tried to drive home is there were years in that Duke wasn't the Duke that we've seen lately.
Sure, just recent years. Yeah, in recent years. Yeah. I mean, I haven't really been shy about it in the last 2-3 years about talking like this guy's is done. Yeah, this guy's done. And so to see him having this success in his final year, kudos to him. I am happy for him. I'm not going to sit here and say that I've ever been a Duke fan, because I'm not. And in most cases, I kind of root against them. They're kind of like the Yankees of college basketball. I just kind of, I think it's fun to root against them. But of course, you can't knock anything that this guy, he's, you know, the best college basketball head coach of all time. I mean, and if he's not, you know, if somebody wants to say Wooden is the best out there, he's definitely the best in my time, you know, from me watching. So, and you can't argue that. So to see him, you know, struggle for the last 3 years, and you know, that last year it was a kind of a question if they were even gonna, make the tournament. And the year before that, with the COVID year, I think he was kind of a coach that was really pressing not to go, not to make anything happen. And I flat out said, well, the only fucking reason he's doing that is because he knows he's not going to make the tournament. Yeah. So he doesn't want the tournament to even happen. So it's not that I've been soft on this guy, but Yeah, to see him in his final year, you know, he's going to be done after this year. To have the success, it wouldn't hurt my feelings to see him go on a run here and win all these games down the stretch and go and win another championship.
Yeah, and you know, he's obviously has the most wins NCAA history basketball, hands down. And kudos to Duke for one, just for sticking with him. Because I mean, in this day and age where if he were to start now, there's no way he goes 40 years at Duke. Even if he did do the whole resurgence and everything like he has done. In this, what have you done for me lately type of society that we live in? You know, you look at, you know, we've seen Roy Williams step down. We saw McGraw over at on the ladies' side with Notre Dame step down, but there's still guys like who's it? West Virginia's coach Huggins. It seems like he's been there forever. Coach K has obviously been there forever. Coach Cal, it seems like even though he hasn't been in Kentucky forever, it just seems like he's been doing it forever.
He is the Bill Belichick.
Yes.
Of college basketball. Like Belichick will coach for the Patriots until he decides that he's done.
Yep.
It's not going to be anybody else's decision. It's going to be his, and he's earned that. And so for Coach K here, they struggled in recent years. Probably didn't struggle bad enough to where, you know, he would have lost his job. No. But in some cases, I think that there was a lot of people on that Duke side, you know, the diehard Duke fans that were saying he's lost it. He's lost it. He was arguing with a student in a press conference. He started argument last year. Obviously frustration from just the season and not having a good season, but people were on him about losing it, but he's earned that to where he was going to leave on his terms, not anybody else's terms. And look at his resume. I mean, that's why.
Without Coach K, there is no Duke basketball program even remotely close to what they are. There isn't the dynasty that they have. In your comparison with Belichick is 100% on point. On point. And you know, there's a lot of folks that have, you know, kind of trailblazed this on the football side with like Bobby Bowden, other, you know, older head coaches, you know, along the way that we've kind of seen them get long in the tooth before they do step aside. You know, Joe Pa, you know, he was, I'm pretty sure if he wasn't forced away, he would have just died in his office.
Yep.
So kudos to Coach K. You know, you've earned the right to walk away whenever you want to, and not a single person should have any say in it but you and your family.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just reading this: 5 championships, 12 Final Fours, 15 ACC championships, 12 ACC regular season championships. It's just incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been there since 1980, but that doesn't get any better than that. You're not going to go through and find anything other than John Wooden that he's going to be, and you can't even compare. You can't compare eras.
No,
we're talking about this era right now.
Yeah,
and where the parity in college basketball is, we've never seen it like this.
No.
So to go and win a championship today and in the last like 3-4 years where the parity is what it is, it's not like what it was 10, 15 years ago, let alone 40, 50 years ago. So
yeah, the only one that a contemporary I can even compare him to is Ariema.
Yeah.
The only difference is Ariema hasn't been doing it nearly as long. He's had kind of more instant success, but we've kind of seen maybe I'm not going to say the downfall of Ariema over at UConn, but we haven't seen that UConn team on the girls' side be at the top of that rankings there in a couple years. So, I mean, granted, they're still in the top 5.
Oh, for sure.
But that's about the only thing I could think of on the college level is kind of being even comparable.
Yeah, sure.
Even comparable. And then I tried to find the number when I was doing my blog to see how many players that he graduated into the NBA. and could not find a real answer. I mean, it's got to be in the hundreds.
Yeah.
You would think over 40 years. Yeah, there's been a couple.
Yeah.
There's been a couple.
And all the success he's had in college is obvious, but then he's also had the success with the Olympics.
Yeah, he was a major factor in bringing the U.S. back to relevance when it comes to Olympic basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was the one that kind of made it cool again for all the big stars to come back, because we started out with a bang with the dream team. I mean, it was a walk in the park, and then it kind of seemed like the next wave of NBA players really didn't have the interest that the dream team had, and quite frankly, and we're seeing it now, is the rest of the world kind of caught up with the U.S. as far as basketball is concerned.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we're watching one of the top guys right now in Luka. You know, his success in the league is greatly, a major contributing factor to that is playing pro over in Europe at like the age of 16 or something like that. So Coach K helping bring that back and kind of showing that he's not just a college coach. You know, we've seen a lot of other, not so much the NBA side, but it's always been the cliche: if you coach in college, you really can't coach in the pros. It seems like Coach K can coach whomever, whenever, however he wants to, and succeed. And not only are you coaching an NBA team, you're coaching an NBA team that probably has the biggest egos in the game.
Oh, for sure.
All in the same room. And
he's coaching a team that for the last 20 years has had a target on their back.
Oh, sure.
Every single game that they play. I mean, that's a big win. It doesn't matter who steps into Cameron. They want to beat. They want to. Duke's going to get every team's best shot.
Oh yeah.
Because, I mean, it's just like you look in the NFL. The Patriots are going to get every team's best shot. Everybody wants to beat Bill. And Yankees and baseball. They're going to get everybody's best shot all the time. Because if you're not a Yankees fan, you hate them.
Oh yeah.
If you're not a Duke fan, you hate them.
Yep.
And that's just how it goes.
And it's funny you mention that, because it seems like, I guess the correct term is fanboy, because it seems like fanboys have, they're Lakers fans, they're Duke fans, they're Yankees fans, and a lot of times they're Cowboys fans. But the football one really, I guess you could kind of parlay that now into either Cowboy fans or they're Pat fans. Just because
there was a big stretch there where there was Tom Brady jerseys everywhere you went. Everybody was wearing them.
Oh yes. So, and we both have a friend that kind of fits that profile. we won't mention any names, but I know exactly who. I have a feeling you know exactly who I'm referring to. but no, it's the longevity itself is astounding. I don't think we'll see. I'm not going to say ever, but it's going to be very hard for an individual to have that much longevity at the same school in this day and age. And then you add on top of that the success. And I think, yes, the success does breed the longevity. Absolutely. Absolutely. But you got to think about it differently, because I'm pretty sure, like you mentioned him and Belichick, they're very similar, because what's the drive? Once you win that many, what's the drive? What gets you out of bed and wants to do it anymore? And to me, that's the most admirable part. There's dudes that, even Brady, when you own pretty much every record, what's your motivation anymore? Love of the game? Sure, I'm sure. I mean, to have that much success, you have to have love for the game. I understand that. But for 20 plus years, now we're talking about a player and not a coach, where the coach really doesn't have the wear and tear on his body. It's more of the stress, the emotional side of things rather than the physical. But I have a feeling you're not going to see, and especially once this, kind of the elder statesman, if you will, of college basketball. We talked about Huggins, we've talked about Cal, Hell, you can throw Mike Bray from Notre Dame in there. Is Jim Boeheim coaching still?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I mean, obviously him, Izzo's been there forever.
Mm-hmm.
Once these guys are, I'm not going to say faded out, but once they retire, and Coach K is if I'm not mistaken, probably the oldest one out of them.
Sure.
And we kind of saw this was it last year, the year before, when Roy Williams stepped down. So that was kind of the first domino. And now that Coach K is going to retire, I think that era of coaches, you're not going to see the longevity at a single school anymore. You're not going to. They're just different breeds. They're different breeds, and it's not the new era's coach's fault. It's just like I said. It's the society. It's what have you done for me lately. It's what have you done for me today, and I think all of these college programs, when you do have a coach, a good coach, take some notes from the teams that we just talked about. It's okay to have a couple what you would consider down years if you keep the same program and you keep the same coach that has the winning atmosphere.
Yeah.
Will that happen? I don't know. Probably not.
I mean,
but
we've seen it change so much just here in recent years, and I think it's because we have so many good coaches, good young coaches. Recruiting has changed.
Oh yeah.
Coach K used to get guys to, and he still does. He still gets guys to sign with Duke because it's Duke.
Yeah. They
Izzo would get guys
They
at
grow up
Michigan
and
State
dream about playing there
because it's Tom Izzo and it's Michigan State, and the name just drives these guys home for them. Well, now it's a lot different because we have these newer coaches, these fresh coaches, these young coaches, these more hip coaches and now we're throwing a whole different perspective in it when we're starting to pay these guys and they're signing these deals and that's just gonna, in my opinion, it's gonna flip college athletics over.
It already has.
It's about to get crazy, and I think the good thing that's coming from that is the parity that we're getting. We're not seeing these top teams just dominate through basketball anymore. We're still seeing it on the football side a little bit without, because it's Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson. But this year, we had two new teams in the final in the playoff with Michigan and Cincinnati. Mm-hmm. That's a good thing, in my opinion, to see some new blood out there. Yeah, Alabama and Georgia still faced off in the championship. Those were the two best teams in college football.
Yep.
But if we start now with two teams in, something tells me that here in the next few years, Alabama's always going to be, as long as Nick Saban is on that sideline, they're always going to be legit. And as long as Kirby Smart is on the sideline with Georgia, they're always going to be legit.
Dabo.
And that's just how it's going to go. And Dabo too. But we're starting to see some more parity, and we're starting to see some of these other schools with more opportunity to be able to get these kids in. The best high school player coming out of college in football signed with Deion Sanders.
Yeah.
To go to Jackson State.
And teams like Eastern Michigan are willing to pay a player $1 million to come sign with them.
Yeah.
Eastern Michigan, pride of the MAC. Yep. I want to say it was Charlie Batch. I think it was. That was the one kind of. He's the head of, because these schools have committees now. That they not only go out and try to get these funds from boosters, from local businesses in order to kind of coerce and convince these guys. And for Eastern Michigan, and I'm not saying that there aren't notable alums from Eastern, because there's probably more notable alums from Eastern than you and I could even think of. But it just goes to show you that, right to your point, if Eastern Michigan can come up with $1 million for this NIL money, any school can do it.
Yep.
Any school can do it.
And whether you agree with it or not, whatever, you have your own opinion on it. But the one good thing that is going to come out of it is the parity, and that's what me as a fan. That's what I want to see. I'm tired of every year being the same team. Duke always being dominating. I'm tired of Alabama dominating it every single year. I want to see new teams. It worked out this year for me that in football Michigan was in that playoff. I'm not saying it needs to be Michigan every year, but I want to see different teams. I like seeing the Cincinnati get that opportunity. And Cincinnati played a damn good game against Alabama.
They did.
People said that Alabama was going to steamroll them, and that didn't happen.
No. no.
Cincinnati, to me, proved that they can play on the same field as them and at least play a respectable game.
And share their indoor practice facility with the Bengals.
Yeah.
But no, and it's weird because at least the avenues that I listen to and I follow, you hardly ever hear about the NIL money in basketball. Mm-hmm. It's always football. Mm-hmm. But it's not just football. It's any sport, any collegiate sport. Mm. So, which a team like, or a university like Duke that is known for basketball, not really known for football. I mean, you would think that the majority of their NIL money would go towards basketball. Sure. Whereas, a team like Alabama, where Alabama's basketball team is up and coming, don't get me wrong, but they're a football school. Yeah. Georgia's a football school. Clemson's a football school. That NIL money would probably lean towards the football. Mm. Whereas a school like Michigan, not dominated by either. Yeah. It's like they each have their time, and in most normal years are both competitive on both sides. Yeah, I kind of lump Notre Dame in that as well.
The thing that's impressive with Michigan, and I'm probably a little bit biased in this, but they're legit in everything. They're legit in football. They're legit in basketball. They're legit in hockey. They're legit in baseball. It was just a couple years ago they were playing for the World Series. Yeah, in baseball. Yeah. And hockey, last year in hockey, they had in the NHL draft, there were 4 players who went in the top 5 of the draft.
And I mean, you can even throw Michigan State in that argument as well. So it would be harder to, it would be harder if you were a more well-rounded school like that, as opposed to like a Duke or even
you just have that one. You
or
have
Kentucky
your one.
or insert team here. That you would, like, most of that NIL money would be funneled towards your program instead of having to be. I don't know if I'm not saying I know exactly how it works, but it's just common sense.
Look at all these teams in the top right now. Just like Gonzaga, it's all basketball.
100%.
Arizona, basketball.
Yeah.
Purdue, basketball.
Yeah.
Kansas, basketball. Kentucky, basketball. Duke, basketball. Villanova, basketball. And then you finally get to Texas Tech. Texas Tech, is decent on both sides. Baylor, another one that's good on both sides.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, pretty much all those top schools, they focus straight on their main focal point is basketball.
You know what the main focal point of this game is? Steph Curry's taking over this game. Yeah, big shocker.
When he gets into these grooves where he just can't miss, it's so much fun to watch.
Well,
and like. You have to start guarding him as soon as he crosses the half-court line because he's fucking open from everywhere, and he has range all the way to the half-court.
Yeah, and the current score right now is not indicative because the Warriors are up by like 21 or 22 points, and I'm pretty sure that Luka has still half this. It's 78-57. I'm pretty sure Luka has half of those 57 points, and so regardless if you're a fan of the NBA or not, you're getting to see 2 of the best shooters, 2 of the best all-around players in the game right now. And it just, we were kind of kind of go to completely off topic here, but when's Mark Cuban going to put a team around Luka?
Yeah.
Or are you just going to let him go? Because if not, you're just wasting a very, very. I mean, I brought up the point before we went live is. He really didn't put a team around Dirk until like the last 3 or 4 years of his career. It seems like. So hopefully you would think with an owner like that, I would really want to play for an owner like that.
Yeah, you would think so too. But he's always kind of been that develop within. He doesn't like to. Even when it was Dirk and Nash there, it wasn't like they were going out and signing a bunch of free agents and all that. But that was a whole different generation too. It seemed like in that generation, teams were all building from within. Yeah. Now we're seeing guys in the NBA that just quit on their team because they want to get traded and go to a different situation. Or you got on the other side of that trade, you have a guy that just decided he wasn't going to play.
Period.
Yeah. And then gets traded in the middle of the season, and they're saying he needs 2 weeks to get ready. Why the fuck aren't you ready? You're an NBA player. You are like. What was there? 15 players on an NBA roster. Like you're one of 15 players on an NBA roster. Like you have life is just you have life by the nuts for the rest of your life.
Yeah. What the fuck are you doing?
I don't get it. I don't get it, and I don't have any respect for people that act that way, and it just it just pisses me off. And like, you of all people,
yeah,
you can't make a fucking shot outside of the paint, and you're an NBA player, and you're playing as a guard, and you have the ball in your hands all the time. When are we gonna develop that, man? Like,
yeah, you would think that
and instead you get traded. You threw a fit and you didn't play all season long, and you get traded, and then you get there and you still need time. You're not ready. Like, I can't even I can't fathom.
What kind of sucked about that trade, kind of all the way around, is it was very, I mean, it was groundbreaking. Don't get me wrong. This is the type of trade that goes on in the off season, not right at the trade deadline. But then you're kind of the passive NBA fan, like myself. I'll throw myself in there. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to see how James Harden and Embiid do. And
I think that trade for them is going to be, if they can. Right now it's fresh and everything's good and everything can't go wrong. But when they start having to go through the grind of the playoffs, are they going to still be able to? Because they're both, both of them their ego can kind of get in the way.
Oh yeah.
And are they going to be able to gel and because it's the best damn thing that could have ever happened to Joel Embiid, because in my opinion, I think he's the MVP right now.
Yeah.
Well, in his time as a Sixer, he's never been as open as what he has been in these last two games, because you can't leave Harden. And he's playing with Harden now, who is the best passer that he's ever played with.
Yeah.
And in the first two games that we've watched it, I mean, it's just like, how do you defend these two?
And that's
because in my opinion, and I don't have a whole lot of respect for Harden as far as how he acts, but as far as just isolation, going one-on-one with somebody, getting to the basket, I don't know if the NBA has ever seen anybody better than him.
Or the free throw line.
Yeah, at just getting fouled. Like, and a lot of people are going to say, oh, NBA, it's so soft. And it is. I'm not going to argue that one bit. But you know what? He's adapted to the way that they call it.
Yeah.
And when he scores 20 points from the free throw line every single night, those are free throws, and he's getting 20 of them.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't knock a guy for just adapting to how the NBA is being called. And it's not like they're just doing it for James Harden. They do it for every star player in the NBA.
Yeah. But my biggest thing was it took us 2 weeks, it seems like, to get Harden on the floor.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he was injured. He was supposedly coming off an injury. But no, you're right. With Ben Simmons, it's like, okay, this was, how do you miss a dunk? But this is the biggest trade we've seen in season in many years, and now we have to wait 2 and 3 weeks for it to even pan out. Yeah. When there's not that much basketball left. And so that was my biggest thing. It's like, I think it was good for both teams. Now it's like, okay, well, to get back to your point with Simmons, how he can't shoot, he really doesn't need to.
No.
With that Nets team, he doesn't need to.
Just get out and lead the break and and do what you do best. See the floor and pass.
Yep.
Because that's what he does best. And he can get to the basket. I mean, basically he has guard ability and at 6'10". Like, that's what he can do there, the way he can handle the ball and the way that he passes as a 6'10". It's incredible. But you have to be in the NBA. You have to in today's game, in order to stick around and you have to be able to shoot. It's an offensive game now. It's a shooting game, and you have to be able to knock down shots. And if you can't do that, they're going to find somebody that can.
Rajon Rondo's made a pretty good career for not being able to
because
shoot,
he's a grinder and he plays defense. And but even now, like he made it work when he back in the day when he had KG, when he had Ray Allen and Paul Pierce and all that around him. He made it work. He all he had to do was be the facilitator out there and just make the right plays and set those guys up to score. But now that he has to in situations where he's playing where he has to be the guy, he's not that. He's not that. But for Simmons, everybody's saying now once Brooklyn gets healthy, look out for them in the playoffs. I'd be more worried about the Sixers team with Harden and Embiid than what I would about with Brooklyn with. When is Durant going to be healthy? Because it seems like he's on the sidelines a lot more than he's dressed. When he's dressed, he's the best offensive player in the NBA. You're not going to. I won't argue that one bit. But man, the Achilles injury, it just seems like it's kind of been it's led to a lot of other things, and unfortunately, here in recent years, we just haven't seen a whole lot. We haven't seen enough KD.
No, and we again, we talked shit on Dallas, and now they've cut it to 79-78.
Yeah.
Or an
Well,
11
NBA is a
run.
game of runs.
Oh yeah, basketball itself. I mean, especially college basketball during March Madness, there's always a good 2 or 3 minute run in both teams multiple times. Yeah, it's 79-70. Luka has 23 points, 11 in this quarter. You know, it's gonna be. Golden State's still gonna win this game. Golden State's still gonna win this game, especially when Steph's doing shit like that. But kind of to your point, Embiid does seem like he is the leader in the clubhouse per se with the MVP. I think the only one that could knock him off right now is Steph Curry.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as teams go, I still think the Suns are the best team in the league overall.
Yeah.
And it stinks once again that Chris Paul has to get hurt, because Chris Paul is just one of those dudes you have to like.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's been an under the radar, probably top 10 point guard. I'm not going to say of all time, but of our generation. I feel confident in saying that. It just seems like during the big times he's hurt. I mean, take the finals last year.
Yep.
I think if he's healthy, they beat the Bucks.
Mm-hmm.
They beat the Bucks. And you know, I've been beating the Devin Booker drum here for the last 2 years. And he's been having a season that just continued where he left off last year. So I'm really high on that team, and they have the experience now where they went on the run last year. They really kind of know what it takes to not only get back there, but to kind of get over the hump. And this is definitely. And it seems like now we're seeing Golden State kind of come all the way back. You know, Clay is still kind of. You know, he's still working some bugs out, which is rightfully so. Dude didn't play for almost 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And once they get Draymond Green back and they have their, kind of their swagger back, they're going to be tough in the playoffs too.
Sure.
They're going to be tough. And when you have a Dallas team who's sitting at 5,
Mm-hmm.
and if you're a Dallas Mavericks fan, you're disappointed in how this team has been playing. Overall, the Kristaps Porzingis experiment didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
We saw them trade him away at the deadline as well. So there's a lot of what ifs going into leading up to the playoffs, but I think as long as you're one of the top 7 teams and you're not in that play-in, it really doesn't matter unless you are contending for the number 1 overall seed. But in the NBA especially, we've seen the just get in.
Yep.
Just get in, and you can make some noise.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, like I said, if the season ended today, I believe Golden State's the 2 seed, Dallas is the 5 seed. So both would obviously bypass that play-in, which I'm okay with. But if I'm one of those teams, I don't want to be in it.
Sure.
I don't want to be in it because I want a series, not a play-in.
Yep.
Not a play-in. Well, 2Ks, we kind of ran over a little bit. Is there anything else we need to wrap up?
No, I think we covered it all. Hopefully, we said it last week. Hopefully, baseball can pull their heads out of their ass, and these millionaires and billionaires can
Max Scherzer
get something to work.
Max Scherzer rolling up to negotiations in a Porsche, and everyone's making fun of him. It's like, dude just signed the biggest contract for a pitcher in Major League history.
Mm-hmm.
I think if the dude showed up in a Ford Explorer, I think people would be like, "What the fuck is he doing?" But it's not like he rolled up in a Phantom.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was, he's not rolling up in a $750,000 car. So, but no, yeah, because it seems like tomorrow is D-Day.
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow is the day. If it
doesn't sound like they're even close. No. So I think we have to kind of bank on spring training is going to be shortened.
Hopefully,
probably going to see less than 162 games.
They have mentioned that they want to try to do double headers, which is a possibility.
Yeah.
Which we're getting back to I hate the 7-inning double headers.
Yeah, I can't stand it. I can't. No. I don't like anything about it.
Nope. And especially if you like to bet on baseball,
Yeah.
don't touch them.
No.
Don't touch them. Don't touch them. Well, 2Ks. Here's to another 150 plus, my friend.
Yeah.
Let's keep the ball rolling.
Let's do it.
Let's keep the ball rolling. And like we started out saying, we do this just for fun, but it's a lot more fun to kind of see everyone else rally around us and enjoy what we just sit here and talk and shoot the shit, and people seem to like it, which is cool.
We would do it regardless. I mean, it didn't matter if we didn't, even if we didn't have these mics in front of us or anything like that, and nobody was listening to us. We were doing it for years before we even started doing this. So
yeah. So we're definitely going to keep the ball rolling. Like I said, we're not 100% sure where it's going to go, and I think that's the fun part. I think that's the fun part, and because we are doing it solo, we can do whatever the fuck we want. Do whatever we want. There's no one telling us what we can and can't say, which is the best part.
Yeah.
Which is the best part. Well, 2K crew, we'll get you out of here on that. Everyone have a great week. Have a great week. And like I said, here's to 150 more and beyond. Jim Rome, we're still coming for you.